Preparing for streaming. Perfect. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to our Projector Energy Study Live. And today's subject is about projector-specific abundance principles and secrets. Just stuff that doesn't get taught out there very often because most people don't really know how that goes for projectors, right? We all know there's a lot of money work out in the cosmos, and that's a good thing. A lot of that stuff still applies to projectors. I've done lots of money work with the big coaches, with smaller coaches, and there are certain things that I have found over the past 4 or 5 years of going really deeply into my own projector journey, but also working with so many projectors and projector, especially entrepreneurs, that I've found these abundance principles, they are real. They are applicable, they're practical, they're not woo-woo, they're not out in the cloud, they're not fuzzy, they're very real and very relevant for projectors. And I want to bring them to you today. So, because I feel like this is a time where we are, and if you're on my social medias, you've seen me posting it way more as well. Like, it feels like there's a real time right now where projectors are, it's like light switches are being turned on inside of us. We're coming online more. We've done the healing work. It's almost if we all thought of ourselves as 6 lines, um, it's almost like it's like a forced, the universe is turning on, like we're 50 now, spiritually, emotionally, maturity wise. We're stepping in, we're stepping up. This whole thing about the chart and energetic shift in 2027 is coming closer. We've been preparing. And now this whole next year and by the way, Jenna Zoe has a lot of these updates astrologically and energetically. So I would also really follow her. She has a $8 a month. I don't get any kickback. I just really think it's very helpful. $8 a month Substack that you can join. She posts it in her stories as well. And she's talking a lot about, and she's a projector as well. So she has this gift of seeing into the future with like gate 19 as her main gate. So I really trust her insights. She's also a long-term student of Kabbalah. So she brings all of this stuff together, and she's just an overall wise and wonderful woman to follow. And she's also interpreting these astrological shifts that are happening, especially in February of next year, but also throughout this whole time right now. There are 6 major planets that are shifting signs within the next year, all before 2027 hits. And all of these are just really huge indicators for big changes coming. And I think all of us projectors are feeling it. And so I see my job as, you know, preparing and helping you understand as much of your role and what is happening and how you can empower yourself and get yourself to a place where you can really serve on another level. And part of this, one of my favorite subjects, is projector abundance, because I have experienced this in my own life, but also with my clients, that money, even if we're not living in poverty, or we can still pay our bills, right? But money for so many of us has been such a great and profound teacher. And there are just some lessons that I still feel um, are important to bring in, because when a projector isn't financially resourced, it's a big stress, because we can't always, when a generator is not financially resourced, I find it's a little bit different, because and I would love to hear your perspective on this in the chat as well, or in the YouTube chat if you're watching live or later. It's different for us, because when we are feeling financially distressed, yes, we can get a job, but it's not how, and jobs are not a bad thing for projectors. Let's just put it that way, right? But the traditional 9 to 5 exchanging time for money is just ongoingly a little bit harder for us, especially if we're doing it in a way when we're just not being seen and we're just producing tasks. And we can do that too when it's necessary, and we all have, I'm sure, right? But like over time, a generator has it a little bit easier to say like, oh, I'm low in money, let me just put in some more work hours, right? So I see this with the generators in my life, and they're also feeling it. They're like, yeah, it's a lot of work, we have to amp it up right now. We have to super put in the extra hours. It's a lot of extra. But this is not how we are necessarily meant to operate. And so today I want to bring you the nuances and the lessons and the secrets and the what I find is very good projector money and abundance and prosperity protocol, so that you can really financially resource yourself as well, and so that you can not just survive through these strong astrological shifts that are coming up, but because if you are one of these projectors, and please type in the comments if you are one of them, who's been feeling that you've been turned on, that now is your time, right? We talked about this in some of my other calls or containers or content. I can't remember, everything blurs together, right? But it feels like it's our time now. It really, especially for us projector women, it's our time. So we need to not just be switched on and turned on, but we also need to be financially resourced and understand how we can, in an empowered way, create our own financial abundance and resourcing. And just a warning, it might not sound as flashy as whatever the manifesting generators have been teaching you, but it works, it's solid, and it's grounded, and it's practical. So I got my shake here because I didn't have time to eat it yet. Drink it, suck it up. So I'll take some sips just because it's my morning shake. And those of you who know me know that my morning shake is always part of the work. So hello and welcome watching on YouTube. Thanks for putting in your comments. That's awesome. 3-5 projector over in the chat over there. I love it. So let's get the chat moving a little bit first, because I don't want you to just act inactively sit here. I want you, not because of me, but because when you interact with the content that we're sharing, I know that you'll retain so much more. So back from leaning back mode into active mode, active listening, heart open, ears open, awareness open, being here. And we're going to do a practical exercise to help you shift on this session, because I like to be efficient and get things done. And if we have time, because I do have follow-up calls, but if we have time, depending on how it goes, I'd like to also do a pattern reveal session with someone who's a volunteer on the call. So we'll see how it goes, what comes up. And I do provide the structure. I do get it as a download. And then I also like to, within the structure, we can also, of course, flow. That's always my preferred way of being. So let's get it going. I haven't numbered them, but I'll tell you when the next one's coming. So you can note them all down or write in the chat if you want to interact with them. If one of you shares in the chat, usually there's also one person who likes to share in the chat so that other people can, copy paste or reflect on it. There's always one person who loves to type in the chat more than on paper. And that I just want to tell you that whatever you are contributing to the chat is always really, really helpful. And I'll pull it into the call because I want to have your wisdom and your energy as part of the teaching as well. And I can't do that if you're not sharing in the chat. So first of all, say hi in the chat. Tell us where you're all from, because we have a wonderful group here and I love to feel into the web around the world that we're spinning and spanning. And then from there, will interject our magic and then bring it out back into our locations where we are. So we're doing practical, grounded stuff. I feel like recently my my purpose is to bring projectors back down to earth, because we've been flying back up here for a long time, and now it's time to get practical and tactical and grounded down here, and there we go. But we can still be a little woo-woo, right? So it's all going to be good together. So we have Anna from Prague. We have a 3-5 splenic projector, Leah Christine, tuning in from the motherland, Berlin. We have Tiziana from Switzerland, 2-4 splenic, right next to the motherland. We have Ola Annabelle from Argentina, 4-6 emotional. We have Heather from Oregon, 6-2 self-projected. Let me see what you guys, Massachusetts on, we have Massachusetts on YouTube, and somebody else drinking healthy juice. Down to earth, yes. What else is going on? New York City on YouTube. We have more people watching on YouTube than ever before. That's cool. And participating. We have Mel from Arizona, 1-3 mental, and we have Gia, I hope I'm saying that right, emotional from 6-3 emotional from DC. Oh my goodness, what a wonderful group. We have Paula from Stockholm, Sweden, 4-6 self-projected. I mean, what can go wrong? What can go wrong when we have such a group of amazing, Anna is splenic 4-6. Good. We've got it all covered. So what can go wrong with such an awesome group of projectors, especially so many women? I don't even know if we have one man present. Not that we don't need them, but women together in our magic is amazing as well. So let's get onto our money secrets. And I know I'm making this sound very hooky on purpose, right? Because I want to show you as well, those of you who are entrepreneurs, that we can use these tactics and strategies that are working in the generator world in a very mindful and in integrity way, right? So I'm using all the lingo, I'm using all the hooks, I'm using all the buyer and selling psychology as well. Because why? Because it's down here on earth and we got to make things work down here on earth, but we got to make them work in a way that works for us. So, money secret, as let's just call them money secrets, all this abundance, prosperity. Oh, here we have more. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's Houdini. Okay, that's Houdini from New York. And then we have Northern California, Kamala, 4-6 splenic. Kamala is back over watching on YouTube. It's fine, wherever you're joining us from. I'm just so happy you're here. So let's just call them money secrets because, let's just not talk around. How do we? We don't really have a good word for this in English, do we? Lea Christine knows how we say this in German. Wir tanzen den Brei. We're dancing around the pudding, I always say. Let's get straight into the middle and just call it money because beat around the bush. That's a good point. Yes. Um, the image of that is different than the cat around the pot, right? But let's just talk. Money isn't a word that's bad to say, but a lot of emails, a lot of email systems want you to not say it so much. But abundance, prosperity, wealth, let's just say money secrets, because we are in the real world. We're coming back down to earth. Yes, we want abundance and prosperity, and it's always spiritual and energetic first. And you guys know that I'm the first one to always teach. Projectors make all their changes in the spiritual and energetic realm first, but it's all about the mastery down here on earth. So let's get freaking practical. Who here is down for that? All right. Okay. I'm going to put the biggest one, I'm not going to give you first because with the biggest one, I also want to do an exercise with you so we can actually transmute it. The first one then is money wants you to be as meticulous with it as it wants you to be with your own energy. I always like to tie everything back to the undefined sacral. The undefined sacral, like you know, we don't have a big pool, a big bucket full of sacral energy that we're meant to, like a big bank account of workforce and life force energy that we get to spend every day, like a generator does. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different way of operating. We don't have less energy. We just have to tap into the energy. And so, what does that mean as an undefined sacral? It means that you get to be a lot wiser about who and what you spend your energy and attention and workforce and life force energy on. You get to be more discerning, right? That's why a lot of people say that environment for projectors is so important. And I was on a call with someone earlier this week, um, actually the lady who won the transformation session from our a couple of weeks ago. And she said she just moved cities. She moved from a big city into a smaller city. And she didn't even do any sales. Her online courses had been dormant for a while. And just from moving into a new location, out of nowhere, without announcing, without further promotion, she made 3 sales out of nowhere, just from moving her energy into a more aligned place. So, what I'm wanting to tell you with this is that your money is directly related to how meticulous you are with your own energy. So, money is just a part where you can see it in your way in your life earlier. And I want you to be really. We're going to spend a couple minutes with each one of these concepts, so they don't just run through your head, but that we're taking them through the body and through your life, so you actually get something from this session. So it's about being meticulous with money. It's the little things, right? What do for me, okay. For me, it's when I open my cabinet in the bathroom and I look at a cream, for example, and with that cream, I feel like, oh my God, I feel scarcity. I feel like the cream is getting empty soon. And then I have to go back to that store where I don't want to go because the store doesn't feel so good to me. And I have to spend money on getting a new one just so that I can have that special wrinkle reducer or whatever is special in the cream. That is now, I had to learn that that is a clear sign of money telling me it doesn't want me to spend money on that cream. So, um, these are little things. Or when you like, every time you're feeling a grudge, and this is not regarding your bills. You know, you can't be like, oh, I never want to pay bills again. Because remember, hi Kamala, back on here. Remember that we're learning to live more in the real world, right? So yes, we do get to pay our bills. And we don't get to be grudgy around our bills, but we get to look at our monthly expenses as well. And I had to do that. Kamala can probably attest to this. Northern California pricing is not for the faint of heart. So I had to bring, because also I'm the sole breadwinner for this part of the family. I don't get child support or alimony or anything, and I'm a single mom of 3 and living in Northern California. And I used to have horses, then I had 1 horse, and now I have 0 horses. You know, I sold my car that was gas car, and now I have an electric because it's like 350 less a month on gas. You know, I had to become really, really wise, and it almost halved my monthly expenses. And that's huge because it's really good for my nervous system. I restructured some of my loans and all that kind of stuff. So, but we were talking about it from the energy piece. So it's not to complain about, hey, I got bills to pay, because we get to be grateful that we can contribute in this life and contribute in society and have our dollars vote who and where we want to spend it on, right? That's why when I'm making sales or when I'm promoting the products that I'm an affiliate for, I'm always those are companies where I feel really good about spending my money there. And I want you guys, everyone who's an entrepreneur here, I also want you to really tune into where do you feel good spending your money, right? Because it's not about not spending money. The US has gotten really, really shy about spending money, and that's in a way also a good thing, right? Because we want to become so meticulous because money is our energy that we earn preciously, and where we spend it, like for example, I hit myself in the head like a couple of days ago. I saw on my account and I check it now more real time. I'm not afraid to open my bank accounts. I look like what goes in, what comes out all the time. I love that. Anyway, it's like that's energy management too. But I saw there were $40 taken out of my account for a software that I forgot to cancel last month. And I was like, I didn't even like that software. I wanted to just do it one time to see how it goes. And now they're charging me a second month. And those are the little things, right? Or like, do you really need all of those subscriptions? Are you really sitting down and being meticulous, right? The other day, I just felt a little disempowered around knowing because not all of my bills go out on the first. I know some are out on the first and some on the 8th, no, 6th, 8th, 9th, 15th, 20th. So, now I know this because I sat down with my bank account and with my Excel sheet. I don't just know how much goes out every month. I knew that before, but now I know on which day of the month I need to have how much money because of how much it is going out, so that I know that because that is nervous system care for myself because I know I need that. If I have that knowing, and that's like when I remember before I sat down, my nervous system was telling, or my inner opponent, or in German we call it the inner pig hound, right? The inner Schweinehund was telling me, don't sit down, don't do this. No, no, no. Let's distract ourselves, do everything else. I was like, no, I'm doing this. I'm sitting down. And I did this list for me. And afterwards, I felt so much more empowered about my money. And like I always say, you guys might look to me as like the success, or not the, maybe, but one of the successful projector entrepreneurs that and empowered about money and empowered about selling and empowered about being a businesswoman, wizard businesswoman. And also, my money journey has been strong. My money journey has been a lot of teaching. And I always like to say it's not about on or off, right? It's like that we live more and more and more percentage of the time in an empowered space with money. I have discovered that I'm really, really good at pulling in a lot of money, but that I had to grow my vessel and still am growing my vessel about holding the money, right? I'm always from being a millionaire and having a startup that was seven figures with my ex-husband and building it ourselves and him doing our money and not knowing or not needing to know where and what I spend and if I could buy another horse or not. That was really nice for me because it gave me the experience of this is what abundance feels like in the physical world. But then when I became an entrepreneur and then a single mom and solely responsible for my stuff as a projector, it wasn't very empowering to not know where my money was going. And I was like living on the hopes and dreams, instead of being in the real world and knowing. So I had to read, I had that in my early 20s. I was always empowered and knowing where my money was coming from, going to all the things. And that's where I brought myself also to my own level of financial stability and independence. But then, I kind of gave it up a little bit with my ex-husband and it was nice. It felt like I was in business class. I could just lean back and somebody else was doing it. But ultimately that didn't feel, or I guess that's not what my soul wanted me to experience for the rest of my life. So I got pushed through these experiences that now help me understand who am I as an empowered with money projector and um, what is the journey and where are still the little energy leaks where I'm like, oh, I don't actually know like on which day of the month is my stuff going out. So it would probably even be more helpful to have it on paper, right? Because then you're confronted with it every day, but you know what's going in, you know what's coming out, and that's how meticulous money wants you to be with it. As with your own energy. Who are you spending it with? Who are you spending your time on? What kind of friends do you say yes to, even if you'd rather like watch a Netflix or go to bed early, or whatever your version of that is. Being meticulous with your money, even if it's $3 on a latte that you didn't want to spend, those $3 matter the same as $3,000, right? Where you have to be really, really aware of the little. And the money wants you to honor it meticulously, and money is showing you where you're not doing that, and also where you're not doing that with your energy, with your presence, with your how they always say, like um, when you get attention from a projector, it feels like nothing else can feel to another human, right? So we're giving often our attention to people that don't even, deserve it. Deserve is always a harsh word, but my roommate, we have a roommate now because there was like a large part of the house was empty when the kids weren't here. And I was like, yeah, having another lovely person here and getting extra money for rent a month, that's great. So she likes to, she said this to me the other day because I'm like, I wasn't dating anymore, but this guy from months ago came back and I was like, oh, yeah, but he's a nice guy. And at one point, she was just like, did he do anything to deserve another date with you? I was like, good point. No, he didn't. Still a nice guy. I don't need to be mean to him, right? But I officially gave myself permission to ghost people now too, because it's not out of like nothing, but like if I've tried nicely a couple times and it's just not sinking in, I don't need to keep talking. If they're not hearing me, then my best communication is mouth closed communication. So, who in your life hasn't really done anything recently to deserve more of your attention? And so, this is somewhere where you get to look, to be really meticulous, check your transactions, what's going in, what's coming out, because all of these are energy leaks and you want to close up all your buckets. Um, which one is next? They're both so good. Okay, let's shift in this next one first. Um, Money wants you to go prudently, step by step, and grow it slowly and sustainably. And this is where I said it won't sound as flashy and maybe like what you want to hear from like the big coaches out there who are like, I'll help you make 8 figures tomorrow. Just come into my world, right? It is just not the experience that I've had or that I've seen with projectors in my world. I think there's a specific type of people who can do that, but they've also probably worked a lot of years on it and done a lot of inner work. But for most projectors, it's like, let's just go prudently step by step and not go for the 8 figure, 7 figure flashcards. Let's just go for, hey. And the reason for that is because the money lesson that money wants you to learn from this is you don't need me to be happy. Let's find out first how you can be happy and how you can feel fulfilled when I'm not even around, right? You don't need to have the private boats, the yachts, the flashy Bali lifestyle to feel abundant and to feel prosperous and wealthy. Let's find the wealth and the abundance right here, even when I'm not around. That's what money wants for you. Money wants you to feel happy even when it's not around. And this journey of building it prudently, little bit, step by step, that's where you start paying more attention to other things. And if you've heard Karen Curry Parker talk about the shift in 2027, she talks a lot about that it's kind of like a coming back or a revolution of well-being. And as we projectors are meant to have a big role in this 2027 chart shift, of course, we need to embody first, hey, what does well-being mean to me outside of money? And this is also to remember that money always wants to come to you and money is also available. So you need to be able to hold both. And you need to be also be okay with allowing yourself to want more money, right? I pray every day. I say I want to make large amounts of money. I just think it's really good for me and good for the world and good for my clients. When my clients see that I'm prosperous, of course, then you guys get more out of it too, right? Because then ultimately and quickly my lessons are so much more valuable to you as well. So that's why I'm also sharing these things from my money journey that have been working for me quickly, even though they sound like small progress and short progress or slow progress. They're ultimately the quickest way there. And the prudent little every day by day steps are like, hey, where can I focus? And this is not about not being wise about making big moves or having big visions. My cat is clawing at the door now. But it's also about honoring, hey, if this is close to my heart, right? For example, the links I share about the microdosing products that I use, right? I don't make like I make increments of what I make with my coaching business through it, but it's so close to my heart because it brings such deep healing. And I know so many more people will benefit from it. And everyone who started with it, they're reporting the best and quickest change. And yet again, it's not about the quick change, right? You still need to allow your body and your mind at least 90 days to solidify it. But what I'm saying is, I'm getting like little amounts of affiliate commission, but it means so much to me. And that I'm also, if I'm getting a $40 check from them, right, that I'm honoring it as it's a $4,000 check. And this is different from charging very little because you're not feeling worthy of charging more. It's about I'm being given money, which is energy, for something that lies near and dear to my heart, where I know I'm sharing it because it'll bring a lot of healing to the people. And that we honor these little amounts and that we don't shy away from sharing things that are near to our hearts because we feel like, oh, that's just $40 or that's just $100, right? Ultimately, now I'm only sharing it the second month and now it's already gone because people are feeling that I'm truly coming at this from clean energy and from wanting the best for them and stuff like that. So interestingly, it's only US shipping, but a lot of people from Europe, they're like, oh, my boyfriend's going to be in the US. Maybe I can ship some there and then bring it back or whatever, or I'm going to be in the US in 2 months. I'm going to have it shipped to my friend and then I'm going to. So it's like people all over the world, even though there's like a physical restriction on it, but the sales are multiplying because it's in alignment. And so I want you to be really aware of where are you making and where could you be making more of these prudent everyday building block steps, not like trying to make a big step, but where like aligning all the steps you do for making money with what's in integrity to you, what's important to you, what you value, like what products you want to sell, whether that's network marketing or your own, that where you're just feeling, oh, even if this is a $27 masterclass, like I ran a program earlier this year called Raw Milk. Maybe some of you were in there. It was inspired by a dream. So it came from so deep inside of me. And it was I think, 8 or 12 week journey. I don't remember. It was long, and we had a community and we had weekly calls, and the whole 8 or 12 week journey. The guidance was to charge $97 for it for the entire multi-week journey. And you guys know that I also charge multi-thousand dollars for my coaching containers. So it's like sometimes that's a little, where do I go in there? But it's about neutralizing the ego. It has nothing to do with me. But that journey, it felt so good. Every $97 sale that came in, it made me feel so good. There was no bitterness. It was just like, wow. And ultimately, there was so much more abundance that came from it. These Friday calls, that's the foundation of the Friday calls because I was like, we need to continue this and make it bigger. And so, and a lot of new clients came out of it, and people buy my programs or my private coaching. So because it was in integrity and it felt good to me to sell it, right? So if you're feeling this, like it's better to sell something that's in integrity for a small price and keep growing it than not doing anything and waiting for, oh, maybe that big hit is coming in the future, right? That is the shift here. And you can still want the big hit and it might still come, but this is what money was asking me to teach you today. So I'm trusting that a lot of people need this. Let's take a quick thing in the let's take a quick poll in the chat. It's like who needs to hear what we've talked about today already? I want to know. On YouTube, you guys are saying practical power. They feel like secrets. Those moments are great to transmute any fear, lack, and scarcity, says Tidy Dave. Yes. I don't know exactly which moments those were, but yeah, definitely every moment. Very helpful. I'm glad they're landing. Beautiful. So, which one do we want to? There's so many. Maybe I got a little ambitious. Well, if I got this whole list, I meant to teach it to you. I'm looking at the time. We're great. Okay. This one is related, so I'm going to add this right on top now. Money wants you to go slowly but surely. I think that is the big lesson here, right? Money wants you to go slowly but surely. Money wants you to be wise about how you're making it. If there's a tinge of bitterness about it, or you slightly don't like what it stands for, and the other things it might cause in your life, it won't come. So, what do we mean by that? Also, your beliefs about money not being neutral, right? First and foremost. Or what does it stand for in your life when you're making a lot of money? For example, if I had the belief that the more money I make, the less, because this, I'm just saying this because this is one of my biggest values in my business. If for me, money would mean that I would have less time with my kids, especially with my toddler who's about to turn 3 and who I have Tuesdays and Thursdays with. That's why I work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and sometimes a little bit of Sunday, more creative work on Sunday, which is always fun because I get to dive really deep. But if that meant to me that I would have less time with my kids, I wouldn't allow myself to do it because I slightly don't like or wouldn't like what it stands for. And so I will super sabotage it, right? Because I like, if I make it mean that having more money means less time with my children, I'm just not going to do it because my children are such a high value to me, the time with my children, right? Nobody, no money in the world can buy me that back. So let me see which ones have we covered, which one. And also, okay, this is a good soul lesson for projectors to add on, and then we'll get into the workshopping. And the terms that came through for, so I have a couple posts ready to be published about this. I don't sometimes know where to go, where to put all of my creativity, which is awesome problem to have, right? Okay, so but what back to what we talked about earlier on is bringing projectors back down to earth, right? And who here has been in a money program where they're all talking about, and I've had friends of mine too, where they're like, oh, and suddenly we got $20,000 out of nowhere from a tax payback or something like that. And you sit in that money program and you're like, I have never had anything like this, and I don't think it's very likely that I ever will, but good for you, you know? And so um who here has seen or been in one of those containers, right? So there's different lessons around money that every human gets to live, and there's a certain type, and I think for all of us or for many of us projectors is that it's called rain money versus boot money. That's my terminology around it, right? We're waiting for sometimes, and I like I said, like I'm really good at calling in a lot of money fast. Like I can do launches and put lots of power and amplification behind it. Boom, I'll have a $30,000 launch. But I don't do them that much anymore because then I'll sit there and I feel burned out, and then the money goes out as fast as it came because I didn't have the vessel to hold it. So a lot of the time, what people are looking for is actually they're wanting it to rain more. They're like, let me get more rain money. I want it to come from above. I want to have all these $10,000 out of nowhere. And I did have my first rain money, not first ever, but in a long time, rain money come in like a few days ago, where they're like, I don't participate in class action lawsuits because I find that such a US thing to do, and I just don't believe in most of them. Of like, oh yeah, I pressed the wrong button and then my microwave exploded, or I did something really stupid and now I'm suing the company for like, I was like, no, I was like, that's just stupid on you, let's just not be part of that. But there was something where I was part of an insurance and they emailed it to me a while ago and I was like, yeah, delete, I don't participate in these. And then a few days ago, I got an email and they're like, just a reminder, if you want this money, to send us your Venmo account so we can ship it over. You have 5 days left to get X amount of money. And I'm like, oh, that's a nice amount of money. And it's sitting there. They only want my Venmo. And, if they're like knocking on my door to give it to me, I'll take rain money, right? So that felt good, but it's not my normal experience. And I feel like for a lot of projectors, especially since we live out there and up there so much of the time, in our airy fairiness, a lot of our lesson is to bring it back down to earth. And that is, look at the smiley face is coming. And what we're really looking for is boot money. What is boot money? And those of you who know, I like to work with the Kabbalistic tree of life, with all the spheres and what they mean and stuff like that. I go into that in some of my programs. Oh, by the way, Black Friday announcement. I wasn't planning this, but all of my courses are 70% off right now. And a couple of these go through the details of how to use the tree of life to make yourself a steady vessel to bring in all these delicious energies, whether that's money or whatever it is, but especially the rules to the game. That'll be really, really helpful for your course. And everything's $70 off, 70% off until Monday, end of day. So look in my socials or be on my email list or message me if you want. I can supply you with everything. But the very bottom one of the spheres in the Kabbalistic tree of life is the only one in the real world. And I think that one is the one in the real world. That's so wrong. In the physical realm, right? Everything above it is the spiritual architecture, the energetic structure that that allows you to bring the light into the real world in the bottom one. And that is the one in the 3D. And that has to do with manifestation, of course, which we're always doing, just not always with the results that we want. And it has to do with self-worth and value. And it's not self-worth and value on or off, like I always say. It's like, to what degree do you self-worth and value yourself? And physically, in the body, it's represented by the feet because you're walking in the real world, in the 3D world. And so while I always teach that the energetic and spiritual architecture for a projector is where 99% of everything is created, if you're not mastering the boots, then it's not going to come through. And so that's what boot money is which actions are you taking in the 3D world that brings in the boot money? And that's another lesson that money, a soul lesson that a lot of projectors have to learn, and that money wanted me to bring through to you today, is boot money versus rain money. Don't rely on the rain money. Don't look to the future for hopefully having rain down more on you. Everything's already around you. All the money is already around you. All the energy is already circling around you. It's about taking what people like to call aligned action. And what the fuck does that mean, right? But taking action in a way that is not needy, that is not coming from lack and scarcity, that is not coming from, I hope I'll be good enough and I hope these people will see me or that person will recognize me, or trying to get something, right? A very clean, energetically clean action, clean in integrity, in line with your values, without trying to trick anyone or getting a personal advantage. Those, and I'm saying these as if they're normal, and they should be, but it's a lot of work to align our actions that way. And that's why I can explain you these concepts in one lesson or in a course that's on Black Friday sale, but to really go through the transformation. And that's why I work with my clients usually, unless I have like specials like a 1 month intensive, which aren't even my favorite because you can only do so much in 1 month. But that's why I work with people usually at least 4 to 6 months to get them to solidify and live in that state where they can take these actions, where it's boot money, instead of having to hoping for rain money, and having the confidence and self-worth and certainty that you can create boot money as a projector is very different. And the beautiful thing is that the spiritual world is always supporting us. So I would love to hear, I'm going to look at the chat really quick, and I would love to hear what's resonating with you most so far. And then we're going to hop into our, I like to do like a little somatic exercise practice where we actually dissolve a large part of what we're going to dissolve. Surprise, not saying it yet. Okay, let me see what you guys are saying. Thank you for your contributions. Always so wonderful. Gia says, this is so good. I'm constantly pulled between the desire for fast results and slow and steady progress. When I see people talking about fast results, I wonder what you're potentially sacrificing by getting there quickly. So that is a very good observation and a very good question, because in Kabbalah, what they're talking about is instant gratification, right? Everything where we're trying to instantly gratify something because we're acting from a need in ourself, a selfish need within ourself, not a soul desire need within ourself, then you're sacrificing that you're going to have to learn the lesson anyway, and you're going to have it taken away, right? And slow and steady progress shows that you have the vessel for it and that you're putting in, it's like the journey from a white belt to a black belt in any martial art, right? Maybe you can do a black belt move on day one, but you're not going to keep it because you don't have the belt, or you're not going to like be able to apply all like the experience and the daily sweat and equity that you're putting in over 10 years to get a black belt, that's different. And just a little example. I was walking after our big Thanksgiving lunch yesterday. I took a long walk with my best friend, and we were talking about, and she's so awesome and she's so caring. And I know one of her soul corrections or tikkuns, as they say in Kabbalah, is about, she always feels like, or she has a history of in her family of feeling like no matter how much she gives and puts in, she can never make it right for everyone else, right? And so trying to emotionally caretake everyone in the family. And then, so now she lives with roommates, and they have feral cats in the background that she likes to feed. And one of those feral cats is very old and very fragile and looking like he's ready to transition into his life, into his next life in South America of being a freaking jaguar or an elephant in India or whatever his next life is. He's ready, And she's been talking to me about him for weeks, and she's like, I want to get him, I want to trap him, I want to get him to the vet, and I want to see if I can do anything for him to make his life longer, or they say otherwise they'll have to euthanize him. And I'm like, I had a heart, Alex heart to heart with her. I was like, what are you doing? It's like, why do you feel like, and I say this differently to her, of course, because it's a sensitive space, but basically I said to her, why do you feel the need to interfere with nature? Maybe this guy doesn't feel bad about dying. Maybe he's like, oh, somebody's putting milk out. What about, like, then you trap him? You probably give him a heart attack. He's never been in a car. Now he has to drive to the vet. He's going to be, and he's already like not feeling great. And now you're putting all these things. But like, why do you do this? Do you think that's truly the best for him? Or are you doing this because you need something out of this, for not feeling bad that you didn't do anything when you could have made it better? And who knows if it's even better, because animals most likely have a very different consciousness from ourselves and just feel like, oh, something's happening in my body. I'm just going to sleep under the bushes more and I'm going to eat less, right? They're just doing it. And then one day they'll be dead. Yes, it might not be comfortable, but it's natural, and they're not fighting it, or they don't have resistance to it. That's because they're an animal, right? And in we come as humans, and we're like, oh, let me trap this guy in a cat trap and transport. And like I said, he's probably not even going to make it to the vet. He's probably going to either die of a heart attack when he's getting trapped or on the car drive. Like, she's like, Alex, maybe you have a point. I'm like, I'm just channeling, dude, But this is the thing, where we always have to check ourselves. Are we doing something because we don't want to feel bad about ourselves? Or can we let something be? I said, the best thing you could probably do for him is send him love and energy. And when he's around, just like give him good vibes and talk to him and say all the like, anyway, so that was all inspired by GS. So Kamala saying being meticulous with money feels so, and energy feels so good. Yes. You gotta be like, there's this awesome show, by the way, on Netflix called The Residence. Shonda Rhimes, great lady. And she's a detective, and it's so amazing. I'm learning so much about what you can pay attention to. The woman in the show is known to be able to solve crimes that are unsolvable. And that show is so wonderful at seeing, like, oh my gosh, like there are so many details, more details that I could be paying attention to in my life. And it's so magical. And this is the same thing. We can become energy leakage detectives to ourselves in this way. Thank you for that, Kamala. Christina says, this is an interesting discussion. There's nothing I'm pulled or motivated to sell or market at all. Absolutely nothing. It has been nonstop hard work to just meet my material survival needs. Yeah. And then if you feel like you have to market because of that, of course it doesn't feel good, right? In my experience, the people who most need important info or survival items cannot afford them. I've always had difficulty finding a place in a society that is so focused on materialism, consumerism, and attention seeking. I still have no idea how to resolve this dilemma and find my place. And this is so powerful, because this is the whole thing of us projectors now finally switching on and coming back into the world, into the 3D, right? The generators have shown us how they do it, and we're like, yeah, but you see, this isn't working. Let me show you how I do it and how I'm successful with it, and then you live and learn. We're not meant to boss generators around starting in 2027. We're just going to live by example and say, hey, there's another way of doing this, and this is how I'm doing it. And look how well it's working. You don't have to hustle yourself to the ground or sacrifice time with your children or your loved ones, right? To survive and hustle. It's like, no, there's another way, and I'm showing you how to do it by example. Because as a projector, nobody will listen to you if you're not living by example. That's another little thing I always say. Anna says, how to sell our spiritual wisdom. I mean, how to do marketing that I'm seen by the right people. It's a long and winded answer that I'm taking about 8 weeks to and 2 calls a week doing in my current projector marketing mind course. So it's not something I can answer really quickly, but a lot of my free content is about that too, Anna, and a lot of my YouTube videos here on the projector channel are tapping into that too, for some building blocks that you can start putting things together. Tiziana says, it all makes sense, and I know it needs time, trust, and commitment. Let's go. Okay. Bye, Annabelle. See you next time. Kamala says, when I received an inheritance, it was lovely, but I let a lot of it slip away out of the rain gutter. Same. I wasn't meticulous with it. Same. Heather says, how does it fit in to have someone take care of your money for you like a bookkeeper? Is that okay, or do I have to recheck everything? How does that work? I would say, since money is such an important resource in everyone's life, it's it's fine to have people help you with it, but do not give the reins. Like, the reins are yours, right? That's your horse to ride. So definitely always fine to have help, but yeah. On YouTube, Houdini says, super valuable wisdom, Alex. Being meticulous with money resonated. By slow and steady progress, as you said, having a vessel that can hold the amount of money we progressively grow in our businesses. Yes, thank you for sharing this. And this is the thing about creating boot money. When you are allowing yourself to do the slow and steady growth, and you're creating boot money instead of waiting for rain money, and you're being meticulous with it, what you're doing is you're growing your vessel to hold it. Then things that happen to Kamala and me, where we're getting large amounts of money and they're always just like, where did it go? That doesn't have to happen anymore. Okay, quick look at my notes, and then we're going to get into what we wanted to get into. We've got this. Yes, now we have the fun one left, where you do get to sit back and close your eyes, and we get to do a little exercise. Love my shake, love my tea. For those of you who have been in my world a long time, you might have noticed I'm no longer eating 3/4 of 100% chocolate bar while we're on the call. Huge progress. All right. The last but not least of this, and the very least, is money doesn't want you to be scared of its absence. It's been such a big teacher for me. So this is the exercise that I want to do with you. And without like explaining so much ahead of time, why don't we just all close our eyes together, and I'll close them with you just so you know I'm not watching you. Just kidding. You can also, of course, turn your camera off. On the replay, this will be much easier because you could just do whatever you want. And just come into your 3D body, back down into earth, out of your mind, out of your head, into your body, into your grounding, feeling that you're part of the spirit world for sure, but you're also your body is made out of human, earthly compounds and elements. There's metals in you, and there's magnetism in you, and you are an electric system and an electric being. There are energy highways running through your body. There are organs. And there are your lungs, into which you can deeply breathe into. And there's this body that is miraculously working somehow because it's well engineered. Somebody engineered this thing really well for us, and then they put a consciousness into us, and then they put conditioning up to us, and they equipped us with epigenetic programming and familial programming and societal programming. And most of the time, our soul, our highest consciousness, doesn't want any of it. And yet This is our path to walk through it with our body here in this lifetime. So just take a couple of moments and breaths into this beautiful body that miraculously works through these lungs into your belly, and feel how abundant and whole you are naturally, especially when you're on calls like these and in high vibe environments that you surround yourself with around good people. It's easy to feel whole. It's easy to feel grounded. It's easy to feel like you've got everything. And now I want you to imagine that money would just stop flowing into your life. Cut off. Income isn't coming. Maybe you don't have to imagine it so hard because it's happened in your life. Maybe it's currently happening. Maybe the income faucet is trickling or completely closed. And your inner opponent, your ego, your mind, your fear, your lack, your human self wants to say, oh my God, what if this is the new now? This is the pattern going forward. The income stream is slowing down or cutting off. Oh my gosh, what if I can't pay my bills? What if I can't pay my car? What if I can't pay my housing? What if I can't pay groceries? What if I can't buy new clothes? What if I can't buy fuel? What if I can't buy toothpaste? What if I'm gonna not have a home anymore? Just allow yourself to go into the fears that come up for you when you're imagining money stream shutting down. And notice where you're noticing this energy change in your body. For me, for example, that's between my heart and my throat, which interestingly is also in human design, my only channel from the G to the throat in my tropical. But anywhere in your body, you could feel it in your shoulders, in your belly, up, down, middle, in your lower back, wherever. Some people feel it in their hands, arms. Just noticing where this fear of money flow cutting off is sitting, living in your body. What if you'd have to tell your landlord that you can't pay the rent this month? What if you're asking someone to lend you money to make it through and they're not lending you money? What if you're trying to get a loan to help you move forward or move through this time and the bank is saying, no, we're not giving you any loan. We're not doing it. What if your credit card companies are starting to call you and email you about your payments that you're behind? Just feel into where does that sit in your body? What is the worst fear that you have in the 3D world if money stopped coming in? And feel that in your body. Notice, is it a contraction? I had a session this week with someone, she said it feels like frozen. It could feel heavy, it could feel like stones, whatever it is. It usually doesn't feel light, fluffy, airy, and flowy. And that's where you know your energetic pathways are cutting off. That's where your flow is disrupted. That is the source of why you don't have more money coming in, or one of the big ones. Your fear of its absence. That's where you're not feeling abundant and whole without money. And that is one of the biggest realizations to have. because that's where you're looking money to solve something in your life that only you can solve internally. And when you solve that, then more money will come in. That's the irony of looking for external to fix and heal something within us that we can only heal internally, and then the external will follow. So with that feeling that you're feeling, the lack and the fear of absence of money, and the fear that you know you have in the real world, in the 3D world, let's just call it real because we can see it, feel it, touch it, calculate, measure it, that fear wants you to know something. It's the direct opposite of what it wants you to believe. So, for example, for me, there was always the fear of being homeless. I've never been homeless. I've never been close to being homeless, but I've had this fear of being homeless. Might have been something that my mom was afraid of, or I don't know where it came from, but it was there. Doesn't matter where it came from, it was there. And so I asked that fear, and this is what we're going to ask your fear today here. What is that fear trying to teach me? What does that fear want me to know? And I felt so deeply into it, and I asked and I prayed and I said to the Creator, I asked the fear, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to learn? What is the lesson here? Because if you don't learn the lesson, you're going to have to learn it over and over, or go through it over and over until you learn the lesson. And for me, the lesson was that the Creator wanted me to know that as long as I'm with the Creator, I'll always have a home. And then that has become my mantra. And as soon as I feel into the mantra and I focus on the mantra, the fear dissolves. The mantra has to be bigger than the fear. So now for you that you know your fear, ask the Creator, what does this fear want you to learn and know? And that is going to be your mantra. And then I want you to feel into that mantra for a moment so that it can dissolve the fear and it can be making you bigger than the fear. So just do that for a moment. What does this fear want you to learn? What does the Creator want you to know? And then spread this energy throughout your whole being. Write your mantra down and write it down in the chat so I could read it out. When you're ready, you can come back. Take your time and finish your process. What is your mantra? What does this fear want you to learn? What does the Creator want you to know? Anna says, I'm a unique unicorn. Heather says, my essence is worthy and accepted. Christina says, for me, the fear is a reflection of actual past poverty situations as a child. This is where it gets difficult to know what the fear wants me to learn. Well, Christina, and sometimes it will take you a little bit of time, right? Sometimes your nervous system is not in a place where you can receive that clarity or that message because your body is so contracted because of the actual past. So in your case, I would recommend that you focus on really helping your nervous system heal. That is number one for you so that you can even receive those messages, right? Mel says, my fear is teaching me to trust that God will never leave or forsake me. My children and I are safe and always provided for. And for all of you who are sharing your mantras, I want to also hear like what happens in your body when you focus on that mantra. Did that fear dissolve? What happened in that channel, that energetic channel that you felt was clogged um, or contracted when you focused on that mantra? Tiziana says to share my wisdom is my biggest gift. Yes. Leah says, for me, I'm afraid of being dependent on people to help me, and with that would lose my freedom and integrity. My mantra is I trust I can depend on myself. Wow, that feels powerful. The chat is jumping. Hold on, I have to see, where was I? Kamala says, you are cherished, my love. All my children are cherished. Yes, all of me softened. That's beautiful. And when you're softened, that is exactly the space of what Christina Rose was saying. She's not at that space of softening yet, or she might have to do these meditations more to teach her body that it's even safe to soften, right? And so the softening place is very vulnerable, and oftentimes we've had to, like, especially when we've had so much hardship in our life, we had to harden so much, right? But that's only going to bring us so far, and at some point that's also gotten us really strong. And then the next step is to learn to soften. So everyone has a slightly different journey, and it's beautiful and it's perfect. And this is what our souls came here to learn. Aniora says, I'm valuable even when I'm not making money. I keep receiving money even when I don't work for it. All right. I hope that felt good in your body too. Mel says, my breath gets deeper and my shoulders drop. Yes. It's what they always tell us to do in yoga, right? uh, on Houdini is saying on YouTube, the fear is not having enough money for food. And when I asked it, what does it want me to know? They said, I want you to know that food isn't love. Love is love. Love is being existence, essence, and life. I love that. To fear, the fear I felt it in my belly, which has been bloated and overextended lately. Interesting how the body is always connected to these things, right? Mantra, love, existence, and soul essence itself is food. Yes, and this is so perfect and so important. What do we take in, right? Energetically and also through our diet. So, yes. So this is a big awakening in you, right? That mantra, that channel, that energy is like, what if money isn't here? What if money drops off? What does money want you to? It's like your parent, your parents ideally want to prepare you for the day they die so that, or let's not go so dark always, Alex, for the day that you move out of the house as an 18-year-old, they want to prepare you that you're ready to make it on your own, right? So money doesn't want to be that parent where you're like, I can't move out because I can't function in the real world, in the 3D without it, my parents, right? But once you're 18, your parents actually hope that you can make it out there on your own because they're ready for being empty nesters. I'm not talking myself. My youngest is 3, so I'm ways away. But anyways, the tension in my solar plexus opened completely, hearing the Creator speaking to me. Yes, and this is, you know, with all of my 51 gate of shock talking to you in my conscious Mercury, this is always my intention, is to connect you to the 25, which is your spiritual connection with your Creator, and that is your medicine. Yes, you can hire me for lots of things, but we cannot do anything, even in our mentorship, in our coaching together, if you don't have that established. So that is always my biggest work, and my biggest intention is to send you back to where you belong, is in your relationship with your highest self, your soul, and your Creator. Because that's where you open up to having that softness, to being able to receive, to even listen to. If I can talk to you, but if you're not soft, you can't even hear what I'm saying, right? So that is your work, is to soften yourself up completely to your messages from the Creator, from your soul, to the lessons, and to trusting and feeling completely safe in that opening. And that it's really just whenever you're triggered, it's just you and the creator. Whenever you're triggered, whenever you're about to rage text back, guilty, that's just a test. And those tests don't have to happen anymore when you're learning your lesson and when you're listening well. Okay, 13, listening, not just with your ears, but with your whole being and all the things that are happening in your life. You're listening to events, you're listening to how people respond to you, you're listening to everything, just like that awesome detective in that show on Netflix that I highly recommend because it's so good, called The Residence. There's a murder in the White House. All right, my loves, I'm going to get ready on my next call. Remember that there's a Black Friday sale, 70% off of all my courses, pre-recorded. They're really good. A lot of people love them. Feel into which one is great for you. I sent out an email already. Some people have reported back that the coupon isn't working. So I'm going to test it all out before I send out another email. So there's time for you to get on my email list or look up on my socials or message me directly. And apart from that, just focus on the freaking boot money and your energy and being meticulous, and let's come down to the real world down here. You know, we got things to do. We're needed. We're turning on. We're getting switched on. We got it all. You are so welcome, everyone. I'm so grateful that we get to do this together and that you're here live with me. I always cherish that a lot. And follow this channel, please, on YouTube. We're almost at 1,000 followers, which means monetization is close. We still need more watching hours, but that's, this helps me make these kind of Friday things where I'm not getting paid for it through you guys sustainable because I'm calling in more rain money. Just kidding. No, it is also, you see how this is boot money and rain money. So hope this was helpful. I love you all very much. Shabbat shalom. All the things. I love you. See you next Friday. Please put these into your calendar.